Greg, you mentioned that you yourself are technically a young boomer, but an ex. You told me before you're a young boomer that's an ex thinker, because you're kind of on that cusp. And in the work you do now with ServiceLogic, you are focused a lot on. What I love about you that you're focused a lot on building relationships. You really value, the importance of human connection and what that means in service, I think, is so important in terms of talent, especially where we are today, as well as customer interactions, right? But there's this element of humanity to it all that I don't believe will ever go away. And that for different reasons, sometimes isn't focused on enough. And so, what I would love to get your take on is in the work that you do, going out and engaging with different teams and understanding, the views and the sentiment and the emotions. You're doing that now, as you mentioned. There's five generations in the workforce today. And what are you noticing? Like, what in your trajectory of your career, you said earlier, you're 61 years old. You've been at this a while. You've turned the wrench and then you built your business and then you sold it and you've been, doing a lot of great things since. What stands out to you when you think about the diversity just based on age in the workforce today, that you feel is really important?
Well, so every generation is those darn kids, we have all been those darn kids,
Mm-hmm.
and it's no different right now. We have a block of people, millennials and Xers that are not overly thrilled with what they see from Gen Z.
Mm-hmm.
My opinion is they haven't taken time to learn what Gen Z is all about.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you, Sarah, and you probably know this as well as anyone, there are some rock stars in Gen Z, just like there is in every other generation of people.
Mm-hmm.
I've got four young men right now that I'm working with, mentoring a bit, coaching a bit, technically supporting a bit. Those dang youngins are on fire. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know how else to say it. They're excited about what they're doing. Uh, and I go back to what I said earlier about when I when I'm asking a question, I don't mean it out of disrespect of why.
Mm-hmm.
These young men and ladies that I interact with, but I don't mentor, are asking why because they simply don't know. They're
Mm-hmm.
not asking why to be contrarian, as some people are. They're just asking because nobody has ever shown them. They grew up in a different world. They didn't have
Mm-hmm.
shop class in most cases. There's a whole lot of single parents with mothers raising kids without the dad around to go out and see what dad might be tinkering around with. So they're genuinely asking why.
Right.
And it's incumbent upon us as uh, managers, supervisors, coaches, parents, and especially leaders to understand that why. And then, as I alluded to earlier, show them that roadmap.
Mm-hmm.
If we do this, then we get to here. And once we get there, then we can figure out that. And once we're there, we're going to figure out your future the next 5 years.
Yeah.
So I think it's really, really important that we think beyond, and this goes into a whole apprenticeship funding conversation. It's important that we look beyond how can I get this kid uh, making money for the company as soon as humanly possible. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about in a business sense, but it's just as legit in a you go to church or scouts or whatever. We're trying to get these kids up to speed before they've got the skills to get up to speed with.
Mm-hmm.
And asking legitimate questions is a way of learning.
Right.
Um, but so think about it. What in Gen Alpha, I can't wait to see what they do because
Mm-hmm.
that's a whole nother. thing that we don't even know about yet because of what they're being exposed to now as pre-13-year-olds. We are going to see in this generation, the Gen Z workforce, um, and volunteer force and whatever force this group of people in excel like we've never seen if we will help them find the tools because remember these kids grew up Googling everything.
Hmm.
So they're asking why because historically in their lives, in their short lives, if they had a question, they hit the Google box and they had an answer.
Hmm.
So if suddenly 61-year-old bald-headed dude comes in and says, "Hey, we're going to do this," why is a natural response to them. It's
Yeah.
not meant to degrade. It's not meant to knock down somebody's ego, any of that crap. They simply want to know why.
Hmm.
I think that that may be foundationally one of the things that we have missed thus far, but it's easily corrected.
Yeah.
Um,
I was thinking
understanding,
when you were saying that, just real quick, is, they're asking questions to be inquisitive, not invasive, right? So
well said.
it's on the leader to take it in the way it is intended. And so often someone may ask a question because they're being genuinely inquisitive, they want to understand something, the leader is perceiving it as invasive and responding accordingly. And that's where, those misinterpretations, those misunderstandings become roadblocks to leaders bringing in that young talent and helping them be successful. It can be something that simple. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
Now, it's a great point, and I would put a sharper word on it. I think it knocks it's a threat
hmm.
to the manager or leader, whoever it happens to be,
Hmm.
because they see it as disrespectful or whatever word you want to put on it. When it's really, you go back to intention, like we talked about earlier.
Hmm.
Um, if you're intending just to ask a question of why we're doing something, I mean, I ask why a lot. So who am I to
I
not
think
be
there's
able to answer
also
that?
a piece too, though, that like, we do need to embrace a bit more, which is, yes, also in instances where someone is asking why because the status quo deserves to be challenged, you know, them being young doesn't matter, right? Like we need to become more open to not just answering that question, but really reflecting on like, why do we do it this way? Why am I asking you to do this? Why is this the way that it's always been done? And does it need to stay that way, right? I mean, I think that's the other thing is what people want at work across those five generations is different, can be different. And we should be more willing to, uh, relinquish that status quo and be open to, not just answering the question, but really thinking through, why we're holding on to those truths or those suggestions. And, it isn't impossible that someone new or green or young or someone that maybe comes into the trades or to service from a different field, like just because they don't have 20, 30 years of experience in HVAC or in field service doesn't mean that they can't have good ideas or uh, a contrarian viewpoint that could still be valuable to the greater good, right? If we're just a little bit more open-minded.
Not only that, it should be greatly accepted because it's challenging the status quo.
Hmm.
My industry in particular is horrible about evolving.
Hmm.
We have been very knuckle dragging for a long time on change. We hear a lot of, well, that's not how we did it when I was growing up. Well, no crap,
Hmm.
like I don't get out in the driveway and change my oil either, because times have changed. Therefore, humanity is moving forward. So
Hmm.
perhaps we as an industry should embrace that.
Right.
Well, these kids, they don't, they've never had. Oh, okay, great. They never have had to do blank.
Hmm.
Um, that's evolution. That's change. And it's like I appreciate what you had and what you grew up with, but it's irrelevant because this is what we have.
Yeah.
We have this set of people, this generation of people. They are different than every other generation, just like every other generation is. They're different by 18 to 19-year olds are different than 23 to 26-year olds. So we can't group everyone together. We have to look at the individual skills. And that goes right back, Sarah, to what you said a while ago, the humanistic qualities of our relationships. And I've been saying this for a couple of years, and I think people look at me less weird than I used to get looks. The further we go into a digitized electronics world, the more important people are.
Hmm.
And I had this conversation yesterday about a guy. I don't know if you've ever studied him or not. Tom Peters is his name. He wrote a book, In Search of Excellence, way back in 1981, and then sequential 20, 30 books since then. He's now retired. His whole thing, and I'm going back to 1990, the man said, above all else, people are all that matter,
Hmm.
not processes. Those are all ways to help people work better, think better, educate better, serve better. But the people win every darn time because you can't do anything without them.
Hmm.
Well, AI is going to come in and totally obliterate people. No, AI is a tool.
Hmm.
And if you use it properly, just like I was explaining a while ago, I use Grok
Hmm.
to solve all my worldly spreadsheet issues. That's a tool.
Hmm.
It's not replacing me. It's making me better
Yeah.
in a time management way. It's making me better because I'm learning how to use a new tool.
Hmm.
I don't need to learn how to uh, I don't need to learn how to use an abacus because I have a calculator.
Hmm.
I don't need to study a calculator any longer because I have other tools. So I think we have to, as a people, uh, really look at the benefits of all the different views, soak it in, let go of your ego. You don't have to be
Hmm.
mama bear, you don't have to be daddy bear, and let the information flow. Let it be synthesized in the group. I'm not talking about group think. I'm talking about on a team when the team's clicking. They educate themselves and they educate each other in very short, bursty type activity. They come
Hmm.
together, bam, they nail it, they get ideas, they figure out a problem, they go solve it. They don't sit around and, well, what if and maybe, and it's not as soft as it sounds.
Hmm.
It's real. It's about using real life, real situations, come together, build a strong team. Everything in this moment, there's no more heroes anymore. It's
Hmm.
all team. It's this team that solved the problem. Elon Musk did not land his rocket back on the deck. A team of very
Hmm.
smart people did that on his behalf. That's how we have to really start embracing what we're doing because
Yeah.
no more heroes.
Yeah. So beyond that, I guess shift in mentality and uh where leaders operate from. Like when you think about the the younger generations coming into the workforce, what other shifts are required to make these roles ones that they want to come and do to you know help them be successful? What are today's leaders missing in what you see in your interactions?
Asking questions of the workers as to what would make them most happy. Traditionally, my industry, and this is all I have to reference, work your tail off, and every year you get $1 or 2 raise. Great. You go to school 4 years, whatever it is, you turn out to a journeyman, you get that money, and everybody thinks you're happy forever.
Hmm.
That doesn't work anymore. Um, some people would rather have an extra week off than $2 an hour raise because they balance their finances on X. But if they could get 2 more weeks off, that would be much more impactful for them. Um, maternity, paternity, understanding the nuances of today's family and the nucleus of the family and how it's changed and what matters. Used to, dad would be at work the afternoon after Mama Sarah had Sarah. It's not the way it is anymore.
Hmm.
Is it right or wrong? It doesn't matter if it's
Hmm.
right or wrong. Who the hell's to say? But it is what it is. And
Hmm.
that's what we have to work with. Maybe somebody wants to work for a month and go to school for a week. If you're an employer and you want them to work for you, then that is something you negotiate towards.
Hmm.
Everything is not cut and dried. I grew up in a union shop and I don't have anything but praise for my union education. But the union, the way that the contracts are, if you perform, if you can perform at X and you know X, then you're going to get paid Y,
Hmm.
regardless of your true personal skills. I think that that's okay for some applications, but in the service world, I don't think it's applicable
Hmm.
because different people have different skills. So you have to be able to personalize your offering based on that person.
Yeah.
Um, we have young women coming into the service field. Physically, they can't do what some men have to do, but they can do other stuff a heck of a lot better. So,
Hmm.
again, what are the strengths of the team? What are the needs of the team? And then you plug those skill gaps with the right people. And it's not one size fits all. As I'm an air conditioning person, so I'm going to work for an air conditioning company and I'm going to work on air conditioners. It's not true anymore.
Hmm.
So I think finding out the specifics of what works for that potential or target employee uh, and being very proactive about who you want to work for your company and building a company that is a magnet instead of a slot for somebody to fill.
Hmm.
I think that we talked earlier about culture.
Hmm.
That means so much to so many different people. But being the place where people want to work, those people don't have a problem having people. They
Hmm.
have people coming to them saying, you guys have got it going on. I want to be part of that.
Hmm.
And that's usually a totally different vibe than the other quote unquote competitors around them.
Yeah.
It's differentiation, it's being unique. It's thinking, I mean, cliche of the death, outside the box
Hmm.
thinking, but you're really doing what's best for the team by offering these unique opportunities to allow people to join the team.
Hmm.
So I think asking is that's the word.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think to your point, people don't listen enough. They're not asking the questions, they're not listening. Um, there's there's no shortcut, right, to the effort. And that's really what leadership has to be. It's not management from afar. It's not being the hero. It's spending time with, this is a big part of what you do, right? It's investing your time in understanding the context of the people that are doing the jobs you're responsible to support, and what pains are they facing, what problems are they having, what is important to them, what do they do really well. There's no way around investing the time in doing that.
Who should there be?
Mm-hmm.
nor should there be.
Yeah.
And the other caveat to that is we try to put so many people under so many people. Like,
Yeah.
okay, the perfect ratio for worker is one supervisor and 12 workers. Well, that might be true if you're stacking saltine crackers in a box.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, some repetitive thing where there's not a lot of dynamics in the workplace. In the service world, you have to be able to I have to look at Sarah and I and see it and hear and look and listen. Is there something I got to figure out?
Mm-hmm.
Are you good to go? Are you over your head? Are you comfortable telling me you are over your head?
Yeah.
What do you need in order to go serve well, other than a truck and some tools?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's not the problem. The
Right.
problem is your kid's sick this morning. You got up at 4 o'clock and took him to your grandmother's house an hour and a half away and drove back trying to get to work so you could make a living because you're a single mom.
Mm-hmm.
I got to figure that out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What you're saying made me think of a gentleman that has been on the podcast a couple of times, Venkata. He leads global services for Bruker Nano. He's based in London. And so if you think about, what you just said in the context of a large, global service organization, it presents some real challenges, right? How do I, as a leader, interact with my direct reports face to face at a regular interval? But also, how well do we invest to bring people together, right? And so, one of the things, the first podcast he and I worked on together, he talked about how in his role, he spends, I think it was 70% of his time on his people. 20% of his time on customers and 10% on financials because his mindset is if I'm taking care of one, they'll take care of the next, which will take care of the third, right? I think
Yep.
really good mentality. But what we talked through was some of what that means, right? And so that made me think of 2 points you just made. One is, he talked about how it is a cost, it is an investment, but he makes sure he brings all of the field technicians together at least once a year because his point is people want to feel part of something. They're not going to feel that way if they're, leaving from home and going to do their job every day and coming back and they're not actually meeting the human beings that are, part of the broader thing. And then he talked about this idea of like, you know, prioritizing people, right? And I'm like, but what does that mean? And he said, well, it's a really hard question to answer because it means different things all the time, right? It means that if, your child is sick, how do we handle that? It means if you have a parent that gets ill, how do we handle that? It means that if you're struggling with your mental health, how do we handle that, right? Like there's no global process that you can implement that teaches you how to treat people with humanity, right? But people want to work somewhere that care about them as individuals more than just, how efficient and productive are they the 8 to 10 hours that they're clocked in, right? And I think it's a really good point because, there are aspects of what makes an organization a place people want to work or what makes an individual someone people want to work for that there is no blanket, policy and procedure for. There is no shortcut to. It's just investing the time and the emotional capital and, figuring it out person by person. And I think, you know, um, yeah, it's just a really important reminder.
So I had to write these three things down because you were hitting on all these points. So I apologize to the crowd for looking away, but three things pop for me right there. When you bring people together that are working for the common betterment of the group, there's magic that happens.
Hmm.
Um, so I do an in-person event twice a year for 60 some odd safety people in all of our companies. Some are full-time, some are part-time, most do another job and they're a safety contact. And this is we prove this in every area, but safety is the one I look after mostly. I bring in a speaker. We have some really cool sessions. The magic is lunch, dinner, cocktails, and BSing with each other and the relationships that form so that when they go home, they have a peer group. They have 60 people that are in a big peer group. They're all safety contacts and
Hmm.
professionals. Maybe that gets dwindled down to a dozen really close contacts that they're able to help each other all during the year in that small group.
Hmm.
Invaluable. You can't put a
Yep.
price on that.
Yeah.
Hotel, speaker, rooms, all that crap, airfare, totally worth it. You'll never justify to me that it's not worth it.
Hmm.
Second thing, a day in the life. If you're working in the office and you're dispatching technicians, or you're selling maintenance, or you're doing whatever you do, until you go out there and work in the field with the person that you are helping
Hmm.
navigate every day, you have no idea.
Yeah.
If you're a technician in the field and you've never sat with your dispatcher, or you've never tried to read the chicken scratch that comes in from the technicians of what needs to be done, or tried to order parts off insufficient data, you don't have an appreciation for what goes on in the office. So
Hmm.
we always, I encourage, and my company did this, a day in the life all the
Hmm.
time. My dad, early as he was in this, he didn't know what he was doing, but it was so accurate because nobody had defined all this shit.
Hmm.
In my view, he would say to me when we were sitting on his back porch drinking a beer or something after work, or over there, barbecuing for the weekend. I'm not worried about our guys 8 to 5. I worry about our guys from 5 to 8
Hmm.
a.m.
Yeah.
And I think about that a lot and what he was trying to convey. And he was probably sorting through it because he was like, that dude was hardcore. There
Hmm.
was nothing soft about what
Right.
they did. And if he's thinking more about taking care of his men and women from the time they get off at 5 until they get back at 8, that's way ahead of thinking of most people back in that day. So
Yeah.
having the mentality of grandma sick, baby coming, mother passing, you cannot buy the feelings that come if you're my leader and you come to me and you say, dude, I know something's up. You want to talk about it? You need a day. What can I do to help you? Rather than Crumpton, you need to get your butt in gear.
Hmm.
If you come to me the right way with that, I'm not leaving you ever.
Hmm.
You're my lady. You're my
Yeah.
girl. We're together, thick and thin, 24/7.
Yeah.
But if you're telling me on days that I'm sucking, and I know I'm sucking, I don't need to be told.
Hmm.
Maybe I was up all night because whatever.
Right.
Maybe my wife's got a diagnosis we're waiting on from the doctor, and I can't sleep because I'm so concerned about my family.
Hmm.
If you come at me hard with that, in this day and age, when good workers are so hard to come by and good people are even harder to come by, I'm going to tell you to piss off and leave.
Hmm.
And I think that's where we have to get is understanding that the human in studying the EQ habit or lifestyle or whatever you want to
Hmm.
call it, EQ brain, and
Hmm.
figure this stuff out. We're
Yeah.
not too old, we're not too anything to learn that. And it's
Yeah.
so important because we all want that done to us.
Hmm. Yeah.
If my COO was treated poorly by our CEO and he didn't have compassion for what he was going through, it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not office and field worker or whatever. It's human to human.
Right. Yeah. So last question, Greg, and this might be a hard one. But throughout our conversation, I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, you're 61. There are many, many people in your position. If they had been through your trajectory business
Mhm.
wise and they were your age and your, demographic, that would be these curmudgeons that are, just as you said, oh, back in my day, and these young bucks, and all of these things, they would be just holding tight to what was. And, I'm left wondering, like, what is it that allows someone like yourself, and to be fair, I mean, I've also talked to plenty of older leaders who are like-minded to you, who have stayed open and curious. But curiosity, I think, is a big one for me. um what other traits do you think we can name that have been what has kind of contributed to you, you know, evolving in the way you have, and being able to, and it's not just your mindset about younger talent. If there's people that when you sold your business to ServiceLogic would have taken the paycheck, they would have left, and then when they called you and needed help, there would have been ego involved. Like, but you're like, hey, let's try it out. Let's see what they need. Um, so other than curiosity, like what traits do you think have contributed to you being 61 but having a very modern, again, is this word, right? I mean, I don't know what that means, but um, I guess a very open-minded view of what the landscape is, the fact that things do not have to stay what they were. Times change, you can change with them or you can become obsolete. Like, what else contributes to that?
I think, I'll start with one word, and it's empathy.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have grown into an empathetic person. I have been sympathetic,
Mm-hmm.
um, but when you can go from sympathetic to empathetic and really understand the nuance of what people are going through, and you only do that sometimes by having to go through stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, I could list 20, and the book has a lot of that crap in there of what made this stuff happen for me. Losing my parents.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big thing for me. My dad was my best friend, my hunting buddy, my fishing buddy, my boss, my teacher. Um, Very eye-opening for me at 33 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Watching people struggle, um, that were egotistical. And I've got a business relationship right now outside of air conditioning that I'm watching that happen. I'm only a minority partner in the business, but the leader, I'm sorry, the most, I won't call him a leader, the guy with the most shares
Mm-hmm.
is tough cookie.
Mm-hmm.
And his way, the highway, this is crazy. What are we doing kind of guy. That teaches me a lot when I watch it happen in real time.
Yeah.
And I think really things that happen when I was starting out in business, watching a dear friend of mine to this day, we used to work together a lot. He was 10 years older than me, but he was still in the apprenticeship school with me because he'd been in the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he had three kids at home and a wife that didn't work because of that. And so seeing the struggles of a guy working by the hour as an apprentice, trying to keep that on track, it taught me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
My carefree lifestyle, was really good. And I would talk to him, even I was 20, 24 years old, talking to a 34-year-old, learning some hard lessons about life
Mm-hmm.
without having to go through it. So it's that compound knowledge.
Yeah.
That was important. And then two things happened. Helping a young family buy their first house because I had given a bonus for high performance. And I didn't know that's what it was going to take for them to get the house until they got the house. I thought how a decision that I just sat at my desk and made very objectively really impacted somebody's life.
Mm-hmm.
And then another one was a conversation with a young man who was ready to leave our company when I worked for the big company in Atlanta. And by understanding where he was able to offer him an alternative to join my little team of psychos that I put together and what we did. He's still there.
Mm-hmm.
That was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So I think those moments of doing and learning from, watching and learning from, talking and learning from, and then working with some really, really incredible craftsmen that were harsh for the time, but good people.
Mm-hmm.
They would call me names, but then they would show me how and why.
Mm-hmm.
Like they would say, "Hey, you blankety blank, get over here. Let me show you this because you already screwed this up 9 times."
Mm-hmm.
And not having enough or not being too big for my britches and getting offended by the name, but soaking up the knowledge.
Yeah.
I was lucky there. Um,
Yeah.
so I think it's not a good answer. I know it's a very convoluted answer,
Well,
but I've never been this old before.
like I said, it's a hard question to answer about yourself, which I appreciate. But I guess what I'm thinking too is like, you know, there isn't a shortcut to some of that knowledge, right? But there are some things that even folks that are earlier on in their career can kind of take note of, and I think
Sarah, that's why I wrote the book.
mhm,
That's why I wrote them because there's scar tissue that I earned
yeah,
that I can give away, and some people don't have to skin their knees.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So we will make sure we link the books. There's two of them now in the show notes and your podcast and your LinkedIn so folks can connect. I really appreciate you spending the time. There's a whole lot that we, touched on at least in this conversation that I think people should think more about and hopefully can take something from. But I think you have a really cool story, and I'm really glad that we got connected and have had these chats, and I hope we have many more. So thanks for
You're
coming on
saying
and
you're
spending
glad
some
I
time.
stalked you? You're glad
Yes,
I stalked you?
I
Okay.
am.
Um,
I am.
no, I love this. It's in my heart to give this away. And I could be fishing every day, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
but I would much rather teach people to fish than
Mm-hmm.
fish.
Yeah.
Um, to throw the little biblical reference in there, but I didn't write the books for financial gain.
Mm-hmm.
I've given away probably a whole lot more than I've sold just to try to help. I got a lady visiting my wife right now, and she's like, I really would like to have three of these because there's three kids in her church she wants to gift them to. And like she's like, how much are they? I'm like, hey, if you're giving them to kids, they're nothing. Take
Mm-hmm.
them. That's what it's about. It's about giving back what we know
Mm-hmm.
because that's what we've done forever.
Yeah.
But we've just got to ramp it back up to where it used to be. It
Mm-hmm.
used to be you learned how to make a horseshoe from being an apprentice iron worker. Is that what that's not what you call it. What's the person that bangs iron out? Blacksmith.
Okay.
So you are a blacksmith apprentice. We need to have a whole lot more kind of apprentices this day and age of life. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to figure it out. Just try to have good intent, try
Yeah.
to do the right thing, and don't be an a-hole.
Yeah. It's that easy. All right.
Hey, every day's a new day.
That's right. Every day is. Well, thank you, Greg. I really appreciate it. You've been great, and we'll have folks come and check out your podcast and the book and all that good stuff, and hopefully you'll come back sometime.
Well, I've certainly enjoyed the conversation. I just think that we're at such a place in our country that we need this.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to keep our own infrastructure sound in
Mm-hmm.
order to be good patriots and have a solid country. And that's part of my patriotism. So I'm
Yeah.
proud to do it. I'm so honored to get to talk to you. And um, if people want to, feel free to email me. My email is on my website, greg at
Mm-hmm.
gregcrumpton.com. You want to have a conversation, I would love it. I would absolutely love it. So thank
Good.
you for having me.
Yes. Thanks for being here. You can find more by visiting the home of the Unscripted podcast at futureoffieldservice.com. The podcast is published in partnership with IFS. You can learn more at ifs.com. As always, thank you for listening.